Morning, Gordon.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
We're well into the second half of production with T.50.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time we've chatted before, we've been looking at the windscreen. But I think today it's maybe time to look a bit in the rearview camera. See what I did there? And talk a bit about T.50 and how we think we've done.
Yeah, I think it's a really good time to just reflect on really what we've delivered, I suppose, as a motor car. And I don't mean the actual deliveries, I mean as a driving experience, because we promised driving perfection. And we had a pretty clear idea when we started designing T.50 of what sort of motor car it should be, but more importantly, what sort of driving experience and ownership experience it should be. So it's probably a good idea to look and see if we've delivered that.
I think that's fair. Let's go back a minute. 2020, we're launching T.50 into the headwind of COVID. You're launching a car company and a car.
Yep.
I think the automotive world has changed quite a bit since then. Even back then, we were not following trends. You were not following trends.
Oh,
the team were not following
definitely
trends.
not, no. The intention was it was going to be our principles, our motor car, and we didn't even benchmark anything. You know, the only thing I benchmarked was my Alpine A110 for the ride and handling quality. We didn't look at anything really. We had a pretty good idea of the engineering we wanted, the styling, the package, and we went for it. I suppose the only thing you could say we benchmarked was the F1, because this is the new F1, if you like. So it was worth looking back at the F1 and what was so good about it and what people like about it, but also what wasn't so good about it, and try to nail that with 50.
Yeah. You know, cars were getting bigger. Cars are still getting bigger.
Still, yeah.
They're getting heavier. There's still a movement to go away from naturally aspirated engines and go to sort of smaller displacement, smaller cylinder count turbos. But I think we're seeing a little turn in that, don't you?
You're right, actually, a bit from that since we launched 50. Not just the engine, but the manual gearbox, for example. There's more people now offering manual gearboxes. I like the fact that this company doesn't follow trends. Not just the engineering, but the styling. And even the ownership model, if you like, is very different from what any other OEM offers.
I think though, as you say, we've seen other OEMs just having a wee look and seeing what we've done and going in that direction.
I think we've delivered as a whole with the motor car and the driving experience what we promised.
I think it's a very Jekyll and Hyde experience driving T.50. Track driving, driving the car on some amazing roads that we've been lucky enough to experience. And then the completely other side of the coin is driving it through London, driving it on the M25. And I've done a lot of miles in the car now. I think that Steve Hayes still has the record, our test driver Steve Hayes has still got the record, I think, most miles in the car. But maybe we should sort of break it down by those very different sort of uses.
Yeah, but I think the overall, that's a very good point. The overall thing that we have delivered is practicality. And we promised we wouldn't have anything on the car that made you not want to drive it. Right down to servicing costs, even. You know, practicality, visibility, luggage space, cabin stowage.
Let's start with I don't even want to call it the boring bit, but practicality.
If you remember back, we promised everybody that we'd try and get rid of everything that would stop people driving a supercar. And of course, running costs and serviceability. You know, there's a lot of people around that go, well, running costs don't matter if you can afford a supercar. But actually they do. They do. And it does stop people using the car, you know. So I think that's one thing. There's also, I mean, you've driven the car a lot, so there's the practicality of being able to put your stuff in the internal stowage. Internal stowage has always been very important to me. I've had a couple of cars with no internal stowage, and it's really annoying.
I've got a couple with no external either.
Yeah, and the luggage space, you know, it is what we promised.
We've driven it in the most wonderful roads. I've driven it 2 days ago. As you know, I drove it, I took it home. I drove it on the M25 on the way home in rush hour traffic. I've done it multiple times now, but I'm sitting there stuck in traffic. I've got the stereo cranked up, you'd appreciate it, had the Rolling Stones on, full volume, and that beautiful system just bellowing out, fantastic. But just going back to the driving experience, you're going along in traffic, and it's not a chore, the engine's not hesitating, there's none of that.
We knew the car was going to be efficient on fuel because it's very light,
Yep.
it's relatively slippery, and the engine, of course, with its really advanced compound angle valves and all the latest technology, the thermal efficiency of the engine's excellent, absolutely excellent, so it burns a lot of the fuel. But it still was a surprise when Top Gear did 900 miles across Spain. With some spirited driving, it has to be said.
Oh, yeah.
And they averaged 25 miles to the gallon. And we know now that, you know, doing a relatively quick cruise, it does 30 to the gallon, which gives us a range of over 450 miles.
Like 78 litre tank?
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic. You're not spending all the time in the petrol station. Every time you bring it into a petrol station, you give a lovely chat with people, and they're like, oh my goodness, look at that. But coming back to the practicality, the window wiper. We had the most horrendous weather. The windscreen wiper just is phenomenal. You and I joke about it all the time, the speed bump test.
Yes.
You know.
I know you like frightening people when you take them for rides.
Yeah, I had two customers in the car over the last sort of week, both of who own multiple supercars, and you come to the first speed bump about 30 miles an hour and you can see them doing this in the passenger seat. And with the ride height, with the beautiful dampers in the car, it just soaks in.
I mean, you know, that's one of my main hates, you know, is cars that you can't use because you've got to have a nose lifting system, or you've got to creep over speed bumps and things. And we've got a few levels of protection with grounding, if you like. First of all is the ride height. The ground clearance is the same as any normal car. It's not supercar low, if you like. Secondly, just in case you do go to somebody's driveway that you don't know and do scrape the nose, we've got 2 sacrificial skid blocks. And thirdly, we've made sure the lower part of the nose is a removable piece. So if you did ever damage that, you just replace that and not the whole front clam or the whole bumper even. It's a separate bit on purpose. Having said that, I mean, you've driven this car a lot, with 3 up. And even on the really extreme parts of Millbrook, where there's one bit where you're coming down and there's a sort of a dip almost. You've never grounded, I don't think. No, I have never, touched wood, and I have tried really, really, really hard now through the test and development of the car to ground it out. And that is, as you say, in some of the crazy parts of Millbrook, the roads in California, trying to get in driveways. They can be bad over there. I haven't managed it. There was a particular car park in Nardo when we did a film down there, and we turned round in this dusty car park. That usability case, you just don't think about it. You don't drive the car all tense thinking, oh, I'm going to ground out. I mean, I've been through villages with a 30 mile an hour speed limit in 5th gear. In fact, I did a lap of the hill route in Millbrook in 5th gear. Even the hairpin at the top of the hill, without any hesitation from the engine. Well, you know, it pulls from idle, doesn't it? The torque delivery, that's another surprise. Fuel consumption was one, but the other thing that really surprised me and actually made me eat my own words was the torque delivery. Yeah, I remember the discussion. It's part of the practicality, isn't it? I mean, it is part of the practicality. You've seen me do the test, 5th gear on the track, from 19 miles an hour to 186 in 1 gear. It just pulls. But then you have a discussion in the early days with Cosworth. I did, that's the embarrassing bit. And I have to eat my words there. It's with Cosworth, because I started life as an engine designer before I moved on to chassis and racing cars. I said to Cosworth, right, 12,000 revs. When they said they could achieve 12,400 actually, revs, I said, right, I want 2 engine modes. I want one mode that only revs to say 9,000, even 8,000, I don't care. And you can concentrate on mapping the engine so it's all torque, and I don't care what the horsepower is. And then the other one is your show-off full chat, 12,400 revs, And of course we won't have as much torque low down with that. And they went, no, you won't need that. I said, listen, I'm insisting, I'm not asking, I'm insisting. And then I first drove the car, and it, as you say, it pulls from idle in any gear. I mean, it doesn't matter what gear. It's a bit like the F1. I never looked down on the F1 to make sure I was in third or fifth. Never.
Doesn't matter.
Because you put your foot down and off you go, you know, and this is the same.
Yeah. I mean, you know, when I drive it on track, you come to a hairpin, and normally you'd be down second, maybe even first gear in some of these hairpins. Just leave it in third, and off it goes. Another thing, we've referenced the F1 and cars of that era. The headlights weren't the best. I showed you the picture of me driving down my drive with the night sky lit up. The headlights in it are quite something. In T.50.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, we benchmarked with our supplier. We benchmarked all the current supercars, and I think the best at that time was one of the McLarens, and they said there's a new generation of LED coming out, and we can make it better than that, and we're about 15% better on throw and spread.
And going back to that engineering art, it's got those lovely gold cooling fins.
Oh yeah, the heat sink. There's a tiny fan on the back of the headlamps because the new generation LEDs run quite warm, and there's a tiny fan, like a little computer cooling fan, and it circulates air around the headlamp unit. And most people put the heat sink underneath, so the returning air runs across the fins. But we wanted to make a feature of it, so we stuck it on the show, if you like.
Yeah. It's interesting when you bring customers round for the first time and they're looking at the cars, particularly on the production line, when the car's sort of yay high and they can really see the headlight. I think to a person they reference that.
Right, so you've done many, many miles, as you said, in the 50, and you've often said to me, it's a really fun car to drive. You've had lots of real world experience, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to tell you it was really hard work, but it's not. It's the most wonderful driving, whether that is on the UK roads, whether that's in California, on some of those wonderful canyons that we're lucky to drive up, or in Spain that you and I shared. The performance is mind-blowing, but the analog driving experience, just start with the steering. One of I think the most difficult things with a modern car is to get the tyre to talk to your hands, because they've got these very small sidewalls that are very stiff. You don't feel anything. We have managed to get the tyre to talk to your hands, and I think the team have done a fantastic job with many, many things in this project, but that was incredible. The fact that you're driving along, you get this experience, this feeling like the car talks to you. Yeah,
well, it helps, of course, we've got manual steering. There's no power assistance getting in the way at all.
No, exactly. We've got the parking power assist, but it switches off at 10 kilometres an hour, but it's wonderful. And then you've got the lovely shift. It's such a big part of the experience, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you can have gear changes on a lot of modern cars, hatchbacks and things. Yeah. The gear change is so nothing. It's so easy. You don't actually know that it's in gear unless it hits a stop. You know, there's no notch or anything. But we wanted the gear change to be involving, so you know you've changed gear. You know, and with the engine decay being so quick, losing rev so quickly, you've got to time it right. You know, you've got to work at it.
It's not a car that you get in on the first day and you finish and go, yeah, done that, completed it.
No, definitely not.
No. I'm still learning every time I drive it, and it asks questions of you. You can drive it into London, you can stick it in third gear, you can cruise along, all the stuff we talk about with practicality. But if you want to drive this car quickly, you've got to. We can put rev matching on if you want to cheat a little bit, but every downshift, every blip, every upshift, you've got to get it just right, and I love that about it. The brakes, to me, I mean, you know the braking performance of this car. I mean, I think you were Was it Navara when you were in the passenger
Oh
seat?
God, I'll never forget that. Yeah. Well, we were both. Let's be honest. We were both nervous about having owner drives on a racetrack because it's a road car. But
Well, remember the flight out? We were sitting going, how do we?
But it was a huge surprise that the car was so good on the track. You know, it was,
Again, we spent no time. I don't remember one conversation with you. I don't remember 1 minute with any engineer in the company. 1 minute spent on track focusing on track performance. It was all about the roads, road driving, road speed, getting a car that worked as a road car.
and the lap you took me at the end, after all the owners had driven the cars, customers had driven the cars, you took me round for a lap. I mean, I've been in cars, you know, that have good brakes, but at the end of that straight, I actually thought we're never going to get round that corner. It's just like a big hand came out and stopped the car. And of course, when the fan fires up, it stops the car pitching. It actually squats a little bit because we move the centre of pressure rearward, and we double the downforce under braking. And you can feel that. You can really feel the difference. You know.
I think, well, I don't think I know. Some people thought the fan was a gimmick.
Yes. Yeah, I know. But to be fair, I don't think a lot of people know exactly how it works. You know, I had the same system on the McLaren F1. It was just not quite as effective. We've got a bigger fan, and it's acting over more of the diffuser on the T.50. But I just couldn't believe the difference in braking.
I mean, I think the fan potentially, well, certainly saved my blushes, potentially my job on that run we did.
Yes. Yeah.
I shouldn't have brought that up. Yeah, I think you.
Yeah.
I didn't think you'd forgotten.
When we
Yes.
went into the corner a little bit too quickly.
Did you notice? Yeah, I mean, I felt, obviously, because you were in the left seat, Henry, Winkworth Smith, the head of sales, was in the right seat, and I thought, I'm going to show these guys what this car can do. And I realised, turn 5 at Navara, I think it is, 5 into 6, it's bumpy downhill left-hander, very fast entry, tightens up. And I went in there a bit too quickly, shall we say, and I got to that point where I was just starting to brush the brake pedal and the car started on the bumps, and I thought that moment of realisation, I've over-egged the pudding here. I've gone just a little too quick, and I thought this is going to be really embarrassing because I'm A, going to either spin, or B, going to have to walk the car out into the runoff area. But I braked just a bit harder, and I was waiting for the oversteer, and it didn't come because, as you say, the fan kicked in, moved the centre pressure to further backwards, a bit more downforce, made the corner. Blushes spared.
Yeah. No, it's funny because when we first announced the car, we got a little bit of stick from some of the press about, is it really a supercar if it's only got 670 horsepower? You know?
Yes.
And I said to people at the time, if anybody thinks this car's not going to feel fast with that weight and that power, but more importantly, the response of the engine, it's going to feel quick. And my goodness, it does. There's no other car I've driven with the throttle response that we've got on 50. It's instantaneous. We thought, because our initial stab at Rev Pickup was 28,000, we've actually seen 55,000 revs a second now.
A second?
Yes. So, I mean, you hardly touch the throttle and the car is off, you know,
And we've got 2 modes on the throttle now. We've got GT mode.
Yep.
We've got sport mode, which is also known as Gordon mode. Do you want to explain why what sport mode does?
Sport mode is actually just what the engine is designed to do. It doesn't enhance anything, it just gives you a linear throttle. So whatever your foot does, the throttle bodies do on the engine. Whereas the GT mode, it's softened a bit to make it slightly less responsive.
It rounds off the edges, doesn't it?
Exactly that, yeah.
I mean, I remember the brief that you gave the test drivers, that you wanted it to feel like a carbureted car.
Yeah.
You wanted instantaneous shut off when you got off the throttle, and you wanted that instantaneous response. Did we deliver on that one?
I think we got that right. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. I think the damping is one of the absolute high points of this car. Its ability, the primary ride, fantastic. The body control, but the secondary ride and its ability to soak up bumps.
No, it's actually come out better than I'd hoped, to be honest. I mean, I knew it should be good, but it's really come out well. And it's proved once again, if you build a car that's light enough, you don't need adaptive dampers, you don't need active suspension, roll compensation. That's only when you build a car that weighs 1.6, 1.7 tons.
Your vicious circle, as you call it.
It's exactly that, it's a vicious circle. Then you've got to start using all these tricks to try and make it feel better. But of course you can never change the laws of physics. You can disguise them, but you can never actually change them. If you've got a car that's got nice torsional rigidity, is lightweight, pure suspension, you don't need any tricks at all. It's an honest suspension system. Because
I've found with, as you say, with these cars with tricks, at some point you always see behind the curtain.
Exactly. At
some point, yeah.
You can always drive through those tricks if you try hard enough.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. You and I shared that amazing day in Spain when we flew down, basically stole the cars, stole the F1 and the T.50.
The comparison test, yeah.
When Henry Catchpole was doing the comparison test, and we basically went down, stole the cars. One of the big differences from F1 for me was the centre of gravity at the back of the car, the lack of roll in T50, and because of that, the predictability of it.
The centre of gravity is ultra low on T50, and that makes a huge difference to especially transient handling, or when you're really leaning on the car in the corner. Then the F1 was good, but T50 is much, much better on a different level completely.
Something that continues to surprise me with T50 is the amount of grip the car produces. It's on PS4 tyres, it's not on a track special tyre, but the grip level, actually wet and dry, is massive. How's that come about?
So that's the virtuous circle again. So what happens if you have a car that's light enough and you've got good light unsprung weight, you don't need sticky tyres because you run softer springs, softer wheel rates, if you like, or natural frequency we call it. And because the car's light, you run softer suspension, and softer suspension always gives you more mechanical grip, always. You get a point where you can go so hard on the suspension that there's no feeling at all, and when you get to the limit, you can't feel what's happening with the car because there's virtually no suspension. I mean, modern racing cars, you have to have your wits about you because they run so stiff, So it's a virtuous circle thing again. Light car, good mechanical grip. Soft springs, good mechanical grip.
And we talked a bit about Navara, but going back to that, we were all shocked how well the car performed on track on the PS4 tyres. One of the biggest things that caught my attention was the car rotates around your driver's hips. You put a road car on a track normally, and it understeers. And we had that conversation on the plane where we were basically saying, how do we explain to our customers that this was not developed, and it wasn't necessary. The car was fabulous on track.
I mean, it feels like that even without the fan on, but in high downforce mode on the track, it just enhances it a bit more. That feeling.
Yes. Gordon, let's talk about the central driving position. My whole life's been driving cars, sitting in the middle of them. Never a road car. And it just works.
Well, it does a lot of things actually. It makes you feel a bit special. It's much easier to control the car when you're driving quickly because you're equidistant from the corners when you're trying to get an apex. But it's more than that actually. It just feels right, A lot of people were very worried when we did the F1 that it would take forever to get used to. But and we both know, that within a few hours, or even less, it just feels so good and so natural.
Oh, it's minutes, isn't it? It's the A-pillars are not, one A-pillar's not here.
Yeah. The only thing is it ruins other driving experience. You get back in a normal car, and as you say, you've got the A-pillar here, your head's right near the roof. It's not, it's not the same.
You know my love of symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
And the symmetry of the central driving position is just fantastic. That combined, you talk about positioning the car.
Yep.
The low scuttle, you kept saying to me, low scuttle. I'm used to driving road cars with quite a high scuttle. And I kept thinking, okay, we'll wait and see. And it just, for driver and passengers, it's incredible.
Yeah, we're about 100 millimeters, about 4 inches lower than virtually every other supercar on the scuttle height. Combined with the central driving position, it just makes you feel more connected. The forward visibility is really good. But the central driving position is just part of the analog. It's a big part, but it's part of the whole analog feeling part of the car experience. You know how fussy I am about controls and ergonomics. I hate these cars.
I want to tell a wee story here. Walking into and I've told this story a couple of times with customers, but walking into the boardroom in Shalford, and you had a mock-up of the dash of T.50. I think it was 8 o'clock in the morning. You'd been in for an hour, I was just arriving. And you were just testing the various detents on the switch. And I think you went, yep. Got it. And finally, because that was, I don't know how much money that cost to develop those switches.
The switch packs cost £1.3 million and took 15 months to develop. Yeah. But they're perfect.
Oh my God, they're so good.
They're perfect. Not just the feel and the haptics and no wobble or all the things I hate, but the ergonomics, everything's right there. The primary controls, secondary controls.
It's all there. Flash the lights, press the horn.
Yep.
You've got your rotary here for your left screen. You've got the volume or the mute button. You've got the fan, headlights.
And people rarely appreciate that,
But you just take your hand off the wheel right there. And it is absolutely
It's not all about just the manual gear change, for example. It's all the other ergonomics as well that make it very special. Not just the feel, but also the look. A lot of people love our analog tachometer, for example. That's floodlit and not backlit like every other car on the planet.
It's so good at night.
Yeah, no, it does look good at night.
It's so good. It just, it makes you want to keep, another reason to keep driving the car.
The number of owners that have come back to me, customers, owners, come back to me and said, thank you very much for 2 things in particular, a mechanical handbrake and no touch screens.
Yeah. What is it? I mean, I know what it is. The mechanical handbrake, people love it. Has anybody done a handbrake turn in a T.50 yet?
I don't know.
Maybe we should try it out the front of the building.
I know somebody that could.
We'll have a go. Maybe use a big car park. So we've talked a lot about driving T.50, but after a good day's driving, there's that moment, isn't there? You park the car in the garage, you've got out, you've closed the door, sitting there ticking away, you walk away, and you turn around, and you have that last look. What are you thinking about when you see, and you do that to T.50?
I'm really pleased with the way that the styling's worked out. We didn't want to do another F1, obviously, but it's just sleeker and better. And the interesting thing is, to a person, everybody says when they see the car in real life, it's better than the photographs and the videos. And you really have to see the car to appreciate the shapes and things. But I think the way it's turned out, it's definitely our return to beauty, if you like. All our cars. But once again, as we said right in the beginning, it doesn't follow trends. The trend at the moment seems to be there's some mad race going on with manufacturers about how wild you can make the car look, and we don't follow that path at all. And luckily, there's enough people out there that appreciate that.
Absolutely. I think to your point about the pictures against real life, the cut-ins at the front of the rear of the front wheel, that lovely cut-in in the body that doesn't.
There's a lot more. You're right, actually. There's a lot more shape in the car, three-dimensional shape when you see it for the first time.
Yeah.
But I'm really pleased with that. Also, though, it's not just the body shape. it's the engineering. You know, we promised everybody this would be, you know, like the F1 was in its time. The engineering was on a different level from normal supercars, if you like. And we've now, I believe we've made an even bigger step with T50. We're more aerospace Formula One than actual automotive engineering on the car.
Talking about the individual components.
Yeah, I mean,
under the
it's
skin.
driven by lightweight, obviously.
Yes.
You know how fanatical I am about
Oh,
weight.
yeah.
But it's driven by lightweight, but it's more than that, because every single bit, even the bits the customers will never ever see, are beautifully engineered and good to look at, you know, and there's a big effort to make that happen. That's why, I mean, we love taking people down into the workshop, don't we, in the assembly hall, and showing them, because once the body's on, you don't see that stuff. And I'm really proud of the engineering. We're on a level that's completely different from any other OEM.
What's your favourite single component?
Oof, that's a question. I'm going to be cheeky because I drew them.
Yep.
And say the pedals.
I've got to get that. I mean, they're a thing of beauty,
Yeah.
both to look at and to use.
The other thing I like, but I drew it again, so perhaps I should pick somebody else, is the handbrake mech. It's a shame it's covered up, you know, because that's mainly titanium and aluminium, the gears and stuff, and it's a beautiful. It looks like a watch basically, and then to get the handbrake cable across to the outside of the car under the seat, which you never see again, we've got the world's lightest carbon torque tube to transfer the movement from one side of the car to the other.
Mine's the rocker on the front suspension. There's a bigger hole in it than the material. It's so thin, it's so fine, and it reminds me so much of parts that I've seen in my racing life. And I just can't believe it's on a road car.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I say, it's nearer Formula One technology really than normal automotive. And of course the materials, I mean, obviously the car's all carbon, the structure and semi-structural bits are all carbon, but we use a lot of titanium wherever we can, particularly things where we want a lack of inertia, not just lightweight, you know, everything's machined from titanium. All the fasteners, 900 fasteners are titanium, for example.
I'm thinking of the cost.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, the bill of materials.
That's another story.
Yeah. So as we sit here now, and we've looked back, you see the reviews on the car, the people who've let drive it, the reviews, the most important reviews of all, the customers.
The customers, yeah.
The fact that the customers are using the car. I mean, I drove in the rain the other day into London, as you know, we talked about it. I had a picture from another customer. He was out in his car just blasting around in
the wet.
In the wet. Most manufacturers, it's like a badge of honor that your car's never been driven. It's got 80 miles on the clock. I mean, our customers are using the car.
I know. The most satisfying thing for our team, the whole team, and it doesn't matter what you do in the business, is the fact that we promised a car that people would want to drive, and driving perfection. We would try and deliver driving perfection. And the most satisfying thing for everybody is, that's, as you say, that's exactly what's happening. I mean, we had one guy who did the 600 miles up to his first service over the weekend and brought the car back on Monday. And there's another chap who jumped in it and drove to the south of Spain. He put 2,500 miles?
He's got 2,500 miles. It's downstairs right now getting a service.
So, I mean, that's got to be the ultimate sort of vindication of an idea, if you like, trying to make a car that you want to drive and that is fun to drive. And then the customers, and as you say, the best critics are the owners, because it's their car, it's their experience. The one thing that is fantastic about the motor car, and that's not just me saying that, it's everybody, of course, is the sound, the induction sound and the exhaust sound. It's funny because I've been asked several times how long it took us to develop the sound.
To tune the pipes.
Yeah, because I think that, for example, the Lexus LFA, they took about a year tuning the sound until it was right. And the answer is fun. The answer is 0, because that's how the engine comes off the dyno. Because I started in engine design, I told the engineering team from day one, whatever Cosworth say about the exhaust, we do. The length of the primary pipes, the collector box, the length of the tailpipe, the diameters, we are not deviating, and we delivered exactly what Cosworth asked for. And of course, the result must be the best sounding V12 ever, I think.
Well, I think the V12 is the best sounding engine anyway.
It
and
is,
I
yeah.
think we've got the best sounding V12.
And it's natural. I love it because it's natural.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's quite good is that the cars, some of it by design to be fair, the three cars all sound different. And we wanted that. I mean,
you told me on 33 from day one, you said this is going to sound different, this is going to sound different because the pipes come out together, because it's got a single plenum as opposed to two plenums as T50 has. And I was like, okay, you're not wrong. It's a completely different range.
And of course, it's a different engine. You know, it's got different camshafts, it's got different valve type, it's got different everything.
Yeah. Different rev limit, obviously.
Yeah, different rev range. So that's going to make it sound different anyway. But putting the pipes together, as opposed to the T50 where they're one side, either side of the fan, makes a big difference. And then, of course, you've got the slightly unhinged T50S. I mean, I'll never forget you going up the hill at Goodwood Festival of Speed. I mean, I can't remember who I was with, but I said to them, you know, that looks quick. And I've always said, if a racing car or a road car looks fast, it is fast, you know. And the noise, the sound of that thing.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've actually got a silencer for it.
Yeah.
When you have to get to noise regulations at circuits and stuff,
Yeah.
and then get below 100 dB. So it's very interesting when the car comes towards you and it's gulping air through the induction system. You get this lovely induction howl, and as it goes away, you barely hear anything. It's very odd. That, talking about 50 again for a second, the induction noise that you've managed to create, you know, especially if you are low revs in a taller gear and you give it full throttle, and you get that lovely resonance from the induction system. I think it's important that a car should sound as good, if not better, for the people in the car.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You know, so many cars, they sound pretty average inside, but it's a beautiful concert for those standing on the sidewalk.
And the great thing about the induction noise is when you don't want it, on low throttle openings, you don't get it. And when you do want it, and you open, it doesn't matter what gear you're in, you open the throttle, then the induction sound comes into the car.
That was not, we didn't do that on purpose.
As we're talking about sound, there's a V12 firing up in the workshop.
Brilliant. Oh, that's so good.
Oh,
but again, that's the Jekyll and Hyde nature. You hear, boom, fires up into first gear, the valves close.
Yeah.
And it sort of disappears, the wrong word, but as you're driving along, very quiet, and you want to make a noise, you want to have some fun, it does it automatically.
And the whole team still love watching people when we start the car. People that haven't seen it before start the car when the V12 bursts into life. Yeah.
Well, they think the ISG, don't they? They think the integrated starter generators, the engine firing, you get that high-pitched whine. I think
we can say that the team has really delivered on the art of sound.
100%. 5 years, a little bit more than 5 years since it really started to gain, T50 started to really, the project gain momentum. As we sit here now, all the effort from you, from every person in Gordon Murray Automotive, all the stress that everybody's gone through, as we sit here, has it been worth it?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And it's, you know, I made no sort of, I didn't try to hide the fact I was trying to do my next F1 30 years on, you know, with new materials, new technology, and deliver the same driving experience, just slightly better, and fix the issues that we knew we had with the F1, you know, the brakes, the lights and things like that. For the customers and the people that have driven the car and reviewed it in the press to say that is what the team feels, I do, and the team feels very good about, because we have delivered what we said. We've got 7, as you know, we've got the 7 principles in Gordon Murray Automotive, and I think we've delivered on every one of those principles. You know, the first one is driving perfection, and that's, I think, if we haven't hit it, we're pretty close.
I know we've hit it. Gordon, thank you.
Pleasure.
That was amazing.
You sure you didn't? You sure you didn't arrange, Kev? You didn't arrange that, did you?
Oh, that's good.